This NFL Week 15 injury news and updates and player prop targets edition of the Propcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code MACHINE to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Rebet, a new sportsbook available in 45 states. Download Rebet in your app store and use promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit match up to $100. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and the NFL with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
And taking a shot to ground downfield. He makes the catch, and he gets in for the touchdown. The catch is made by Calvin Ridley. Wilson, good as he throws deep downfield. It's going to be caught by Metcalf.
Welcome, everyone, to the Propcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. NFL Week 15 upon us as we will kick it off on Thursday Night Football with a huge NFC West matchup. But here to get into all the injury news and updates around the National Football League. You guys know how we do it here on this episode. We'll go game by game, talking about the major injuries and implications, and we'll talk about some players that we will be looking at in the player prop market for those players that will be respectively out this week or potentially missing this week for their respective teams. But joining me, of course, here on this episode, he is the man with all the valuable information, breaks it down very, very beautifully every single week. We've been profiting here with our player props as well. It's my main man, Sebastian Fearon. Sebastian, what's going on, my man? How you doing?
How we doing, man? You know, we were just talking offline, but listen, if you've listened to the show or anything the past week or so, you know, I've been dealing with a little bit of a cold. And here at SGPN, we are a very strict no lean policy. However, I was prescribed, a little bit of promethazine today. So if you see me leading on the show, just know it is nothing to do with my gambling advice.
100%. Hey, that little injury news, or I should say injury news, but illness update from the DGen doc himself. So he is ready to go. He's going to get through it like MJ did in the flu game for the Chicago Bulls in the NBA Finals. But Sebastian, let's get into it here, man. We won't waste any time. We'll dive into it. We'll start here with Thursday Night Football. Like I mentioned, should be a doozy of a game here between the San Francisco 49ers hosting the Los Angeles Rams. Rams nipping at the heels, I should say, of the Seattle Seahawks, who in the NFC West division looks like it might just come down to the final week of the regular season here. But currently, as it stands, I did see that the 49ers are I believe it's 2.5. You guys, a number right now with a total of 49. What are we looking at for injuries in this matchup?
Yeah, and that number makes sense with it being in San Francisco at Levi Stadium there. So, but yeah, I mean, this game, maybe a couple weeks ago, we didn't think it would mean as much, but this is a huge game for this division. So both teams desperately need it. Like you said, chasing somehow the Seattle Seahawks keep winning despite for what I believe is not a good team, but maybe none of these teams are good. And that's really what it boils down to.
Maybe.
But we got the Los Angeles Rams. We'll start with them. Their injury report's a little bit lighter. You've got Demarcus Robinson, who's been in and out of the news, whether it's for a DUI or just different injuries, but he's been playing through a lot of things. Now, he did land hard on his shoulder. Looks like it's a minor AC sprain. There is a good chance he could play, but he is still not yet. Their practice report hasn't came out yet. 49ers has, so he didn't practice Monday, which isn't too concerning. We'll see if he gets a limited practice. I think he still has a good chance to play. Sounds like it's just that minor AC sprain, which most guys can play through. So one to monitor, but I would be a little bit optimistic there. Another guy to be a little bit optimistic is Tyler Higbee. He fully practiced on Monday. He'd returned to practice his last several weeks. They're kind of slow playing him like they should. I talked about it earlier in the year, but if Higbee's really going to be an effective part of this offense, it's going to come in a playoff run. But I'm curious to see if he is activated, what the numbers will be. We saw a guy like, TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah.
Very similar injury, only a couple weeks difference. Now Hawkinson's been back a couple weeks. He came back and immediately got some receptions and was an easy target for Sam Darnold. Stafford likes the tight end. So if Higbee is activated, I expect the numbers to be low, I'll be looking somewhere at a reception prop if they hang it. There might be something, I could see him getting 3 catches, 25 yards, something like that. So something to keep in mind. And then Colby Durant is really the biggest injury, the guy who can really miss. Cornerback there starting corner for them. He had a bruised lung, which is a bit of a scary injury. He's expected to be okay. Did not practice Monday. Where again, I'm waiting on that practice report. It's probably coming out now or very shortly. But there's a chance he can play. There's a chance not. I mean, that one really is just, does he get cleared by the medical staff, right? It's not something you really want to mess with. You don't want to take a shot to the lungs again. And really, that could be, you saw Jalen Petrie last year was coughing up blood on the sidelines. I mean, that very quickly can turn pretty bad. So we'll see. They talked about, Sean McVay said, Emmanuel Forbes, the stick that lives, he may get a chance to play if Kobe Durant is not able to play. So the back end there could be down a starter. For the 49ers side, a lot more doom and gloom. Nick Bosa, Trent Williams, the big one. Trent Williams dealing with his ankle injury, expected to be a high ankle injury with the way he's been out. I know he was dealing with some familial things, so I don't know exactly how that's played in the recovery. But he has not practiced now for 2 days in a row. Neither has Nick Bosa. That's 2 straight non-practices. Now, different from a guy that I'm about to talk about in Isaac Guerrero, where these guys haven't practiced in several weeks. So the fact that they're not be able to get back on the field yet, that's a bit concerning. I would say right now for Trent Williams and for Nick Bosa, I'd almost say it's doubtful. But for a guy like Isaac Guerrero, who just picked up a foot sprain on Sunday, he came in, picked up 26 fantasy points, won a bunch of people their matchups to get him in the playoffs, and then he kind of vanished with his foot sprain. Now, MRI was negative, X-ray was negative, so it's really just kind of a sprain. Sounds like he is pushing to play. He has not practiced today or yesterday. That was expected. They're going to see what he can do on Wednesday. But, if he can play, I think this is a guy that you do trust a little bit. I think that he showed that he can carry the load. And if they clear him, they need this game. So I think he's going to get the carry. So, usually not somebody coming off an injury, coming off a little bit of rest, not somebody I want to back. But if he is cleared, I think I do have some faith in Isaac Guerrero there. And then a couple other ones, linebacker Dre Greenlaw, limited practice. He's still trying to make his way back from Achilles there from the Super Bowl. I still think it's way too early for him to be anywhere near the Dre Greenlaw that we know. So even if he does play, do not expect much here. And then starting safety Malik Mustafa, limited practice. He'll probably give it a go on the short week. So, 49ers hit a little bit more heavy. Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, I mean, those are the biggest pieces of those offensive and defensive lines. I know they were able to handle the Chicago Bears pretty easily, but I think that speaks to a bigger testament of where the Chicago Bears are at than, really them figuring it out. It's very clear this team's record with and without Nick Bosa and Trent Williams. Like, they're huge pieces to that. So if both those guys can't go, looking at some sack props or potentially looking at some, some pro Rams props with no Bosa out there.
Yeah, the big one I was looking out for, at least from a player prop perspective, was going to be Isaac Guerrero. Like you mentioned, he did have a pretty great week last week for the 49ers. I was going to target Patrick Taylor in this game if he was not able to go, obviously, being the other running back in the backfield there for the San Francisco 49ers. But if he does end up going in this game, I do believe that the Rams have been one of the more poor rush defenses over the last 3 weeks in the entire National Football League. So I think I would be targeting the backfield there for the San Francisco 49ers. Anything else, Sebastian, for the Thursday night football game?
No, I just co-signed that, man. Yeah, I think the Rams rushing the ground attack is where you can attack them. The 49ers, their defense has not been great either. So really whatever you feel is best. I mean, both offense, on the ground and through the air, I think they're susceptible. They're not the same 49ers defense that we're used to.
Yeah. All right, before we continue the conversation here, let me quickly just remind everybody to download the SGPN app. It's completely free, and you have easy access to all of our shows and all of our picks pages as well. And it's, again, free wherever you do get your apps, whether it's App Store, Google Play Store. Go in there, type in SGPN. You can download the SGPN app. All right, let's continue here to the Sunday slate of games. Again, no teams on buys this week. All the bye weeks have been completed. So we'll start here with the Baltimore Ravens. They're in MetLife Stadium to take on the Giants. Giants catching 14.5 points in this game with a total of 43 here, Sebastian. What are we looking at for Ravens coming off their bye week and the New York Giants?
Oh, man, we really got to talk about this game.
Well, first, I think this would be a great time for you to admit that you were the one that sent that plane over the MetLife Stadium asking the owner, John Mara, to sell the team. But I'll leave that guilt up to you.
No, I can tell you that if it wasn't me, I would have signed it. I would have had no issue. I would have wrote my whole name. I would have put my face right by. I don't give a damn. I'll tell him right now. Mara, figure this shit out, man. This is painful. I mean, it's hard. I literally can't watch the games anymore as much as I love them. as a franchise. I just can't do it. I just get too frustrated with the bad team. But anyway, I'm here to report the injuries, and that's what I'm going to do. So on the Baltimore Ravens side, getting a little healthier coming off the bye. You got Rashad Bateman, who picked up a knee injury. He participated in practice on Monday. Same thing with Kyle Van Noy, who had missed that previous game, dealing with a hamstring and back injury. So some good news there. Now they do have a self-imposed suspension for Deontay Johnson, serving that one-game suspension for refusing to go in the game and being a giant diva for what? I just don't get it. Why
really
get him?
don't.
I mean, clearly you didn't need him, or you don't think you need. I don't know. Crazy situation there. So he's not going to be playing. On the Giants side, look, this team sucks. They're out multiple people. I don't even know how much it matters. I mean, we had multiple guys out in the defense, let up maybe the least amount of points we let up all year. And of course, as soon as a guy looks good like Trey Hawkins, he's out for the season on IR. Really, the biggest thing for you to know is Drew Lock. He's dealing with some injuries. They said he's sore. He's going to get some MRIs. We'll see. Obviously, I think he is more competent and he gives them a better chance to, do anything than Tommy DeVito. But let's be honest, those first 3 quarters against a bad Saints defense, they didn't do a damn thing. Yep. So I don't know what props you really – I mean, obviously the Ravens secondary has not been good. But, I mean, this Giants team is they might be historically bad. I mean, Malik Neighbors, after every game, they're asking him all these different things. Honestly, I mean, the New York media is kind of bullshit, but none of it's his fault. I mean, he's wide open. It's very clear to see the film. So it's just – are we going to guarantee that Drew Lock or Tommy DeVito gets him the ball? I mean, he would have a great matchup here again, but it's kind of hard to have a lot of faith in somebody like Neighbors when he's just got no offensive line and no quarterback.
Yeah, and I feel like they're just kind of baiting him to say, throw somebody under the bus for Malik Neighbors. I mean, him being in his rookie season, I think that once he does get a competent quarterback for the New York Giants, I think sky's is going to be a limit for him. So I know Drew Lock had to get an MRI done, Sebastian. Was that for an arm injury, a leg injury?
It was like sore. It was like a couple things. It doesn't sound like anything actually serious, but I mean, I guess the MRI will let us know. It sounds like he was just beat up. These guys are, bench warmers, not used to playing professional football. So, especially behind that offensive line. But I mean, props wise, I think Derrick Henry, I mean, you could probably have your pick, right? I mean, we had 2 cornerbacks out last week and we just put one on IR. So you could have your pick of the secondary. But I think just Derrick Henry you've got a team that you're going to be up a lot of points. They're going to want to quit. They're trying to get Derrick Henry, why not have him lead the lead in rushing touchdowns? It's just very easy to hand it to your back. So whether it's Henry, also a guy like Justice Hill, I think, this is very easily could be some RB2 territory, beating up on a bad team. We're really bad guarding running backs out of the backfield. So I've been really liking his receiving and his rush and receiving. So, if you want to play it that way, but that's, that's kind of getting a little cute, but I do like Justice Hill here. I think that he could also have a good matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I really do like Derrick Henry this week against the Giants. I was on Kamara very heavy last week. He just wasn't able to get it going for whatever reason. But I'm also afraid because I do play Derrick Henry in the playoffs in a fantasy football league this week. So I'm afraid he's going to go out there for like 150 plus rushing yards and like 2 touchdowns and just like send me home.
Yeah, it might be the floor, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right, let's keep it rolling here. Let's get over to the Washington Commanders. They are in the Big Easy to take on the New Orleans Saints. Saints catching 7.5 points in this game with a total of 43 and a bit of an injury news here for the Saints side of things. But Commanders, Saints, what do we got?
Yeah, Derek Carr, I mean, is really the biggest one. We just had the Simpsons, Monday Night Football game, and he kind of gave us a pre kind of what the hell's going on cartoon animation type injury when he dove for a meaningless first down up 11 points against the 2-8-9, whatever they are, Giants. So he not only fractured his hand, they call it a Foosh injury. So fall on outstretched hand. If you want to, give somebody trivia, that's a Foosh injury. And he fractured his non-throwing hand. Pretty significant. He's going to be out for a couple weeks. He also went one above because he's an overachiever and picked up a concussion. So I don't expect to see him back for the rest of the season. Look, this team sucks. I understand they beat a bad Giants team. They needed a blocked field goal. That's a disgrace to even get there. I'm happy they blocked the field goal. But they're going to play the Commanders and they're going to play the Packers. They're going to lose probably both those games. Their playoff chances are going to be over, and there's going to be no reason to bring Derek Carr back in the game. Right. So, whether it's Jake Hayner, I know they just signed Ben DiNucci, former XFL Seattle Sea Dragon or whatever the hell he was there. So, as far as what that means for this game, maybe I'll just hand that to you. I mean, we kind of saw when Spencer Rattler was there, they used the tight ends a lot. Foster Moreau, Jawan Johnson was starting to get going. You still have no Chris Olave. So, I mean, it's hard to really think. I mean, maybe you just go Commanders and Jaden Daniels. I think maybe the bigger story is Jaden Daniels getting a week to recover off that rib injury. And maybe we see the Jaden Daniels that we saw at the beginning of the season, because there's been a clear difference from when he suffered that injury before the Bears game to when he was looking like before the season. So maybe that's the way that we really should look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to see who. I think Jake Kaner, like you mentioned, will get the start here. I just got to go back and look at his numbers and see what he was, at least the target distribution when he was under center for this Saints team. But for the Commander side of things, I think Jaden Daniels will be right back at it running the football. Terry McLaurin has picked it up in the last couple of weeks as well, as far as racking up the yards there for this team as well. Austin Eckler, remind me, Sebastian, is he on the IR? Or is he back this week? Or
yeah, I believe he was on the IR. Let me.
Okay, yeah, I think so too.
I think I'm pretty sure. Yeah, if you want to talk about something else real quick, I'll look that up to confirm. But I'm pretty sure he was put on the IR with that concussion.
Yeah, I'll mention for the Saints here. I was looking at Kamara last week against Johnson Pan. Maybe it's a bounce back game here for him, because I know the usage is going to be through the roof just because of all the injuries that we've talked about over the past several weeks for the Saints team and the lack of weapons there. So I think this might be the Kamara week.
Yeah, it looks like he was placed in the IR week 13. So, I guess, week 17, he's eligible. So he's going to be out for another couple of weeks. So it should be the Brian Robinson show.
All right. Let's keep it rolling here. Let's get over to that luck box they call the Kansas City Chiefs. They are in Cleveland to take on the Browns. Browns catching 4 points in this game with a total of 45. Sebastian, Chiefs and Browns, what do we got for this matchup?
Oh, man, what an exciting watch they are, though, huh?
Yeah, I'll tell you that much.
It does keep it entertaining. Even when they're up 13-0 at half, they still find a way to win by 2. But look, they're really not a ton. I would say, okay, so we got a decently big injury on the Browns side. It's quarterback Greg Newsome. He's on the IR with the hamstring injury. So, a shaky secondary that is already, yes, Denzel Ward is a good player, but outside of him, Delpit's pretty good. But they've been giving up a lot of yards, a lot of points. So that secondary takes a downgrade. And the Chiefs secondary, who was dealing with some injuries in their own right, Jalen Watson has been put on the IR, several weeks ago. He's one of their better cover corners. Joshua Williams got banged up, had to leave the game late. They had to bring in some reserve guys. They just signed, former Houston Texans cornerback Steven Nelson, who's coming off one of his better years, over 60 tackles, 13 pass breakups, and 4 interceptions last year. So, at 31 years old, he's not washed up in any regard. He was just kind of waiting to sign with a contender, and he might have found a home here. So, there's already a good defense. They were getting a little susceptible with that back end being a little shaky. We saw Herbert kind of get some big throws on him, and we know Winston is capable of chucking the ball downfield. So we'll see how quickly Steven Nelson is able to get kind of plugged into the program here. But I would say watch out for that injury report as far as Joshua Williams, those DBs, and let's see if Steven Nelson, because if he isn't back yet, then that might be time for Jameis to get a little bit of things working against this shaky secondary.
Yeah, I mean, look, for this Chiefs team, like you mentioned, it's just they are number one getting healthy. I think this is the week where Isaiah Pacheco just absolutely has a great week for this Kansas City Chiefs team. We saw more of an increase in his carries over the last, or I should say last week, for this Chiefs team. But this Browns team, I mean, look, with Jameis Winston back there, at least he's good for giving up at least 6 points at minimum, if not at least 2 interceptions. So, I don't know, man. I feel like I like the Brown side here just because it is a Chiefs and they just aren't able to cover any type of numbers.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is the Isaiah Pacheco week here for the Kansas City Chiefs going up against the Browns. Got anything for Chiefs Browns?
The only thing I'll mention, I've been saying in the past couple of weeks, and it's been cashing, is, look, the Browns, unless Jedrick Willis decides to play football, they're on their left tackle number 3. James Winston's been giving up a lot of sacks. I mean, it's been very profitable. As I always say, you don't go for the big names that are at minus money. Look for the productivity, and there's a lot of good prices there at plus money. I know Nick Herbert, some of the Broncos players, Jonah Ellis, I talked about on my show, was a 5-to-1 cash for us on the sack. So there's opportunity there on this Cleveland Browns line. We typically think of them as a good unit. They're giving up some of the most sacks in the league. So, take advantage of that, whether it's a guy like Karlaftis or Chris Jones or somebody like that.
All right, let's keep it rolling here. Let's get over to my part of the world. We got the Miami Dolphins in town. They are going to be taking on the Texans in this game. Coming off of their bye week are the Texans. Texans laying 3 points, reduced juice, or you can find a -2.5 out there juiced in this game. Total of 47. Sebastian, what are we looking at for Dolphins and the Texans?
Yeah, look, Texans are getting a bit healthier. I actually really like the Texans in this spot. I think they right the ship a little bit. I think Miami's been very fortunate to get some wins against some bad teams and think that they actually have a chance for the playoffs. I think Houston puts the nail in the coffin this week. They've got linebacker Christian Harris coming back from the IR, and they've also got offensive lineman Kenyon Green. Look, Azeez Al-Shaair is suspended for 3 games, so Christian Harris fits in, be able to fill that void. And then this Texans offensive line has given up some of the most sacks in the league. They've given up over 40 sacks. CJ Stroud has not looked the same. So maybe Kenyon Green is a bit of an answer on the interior offensive line to provide some support there. A guy who was, vying to start in the beginning of the season. So I think this is 2 guys who are getting back at positions of need. I think coming off a week of rest, I think D'Amico Ryans is able to game plan. And I think they're going to put 2 in. Also look for Will Anderson. Should likely be back as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's going to be huge for them, right, to have Danielle Hunter and him back. And let's be honest, if you can get to Tua, you can very much mess up that offense, right? So I really like Houston in this matchup overall. As far as the props go, we'll have to see. Teron Armstead's been dealing with some injuries there. I think Devon Achane actually – did he – well, he returned to the game. So not a ton of injuries right now. We'll kind of, keep you updated throughout the week. Definitely follow on social to make sure you're up to date there. But I think Houston getting some guys back is the biggest thing of note in this game.
Yeah, especially at that, like you mentioned, the offensive tackle position there where the Texans O-line has just been atrocious this season. And, getting Christian Harris back, I know the practice windows opened up for him and Kenyon Green. And then also, honestly, just giving that week off, like we mentioned, just kind of game planning, getting our heads together. If we win this week and the Colts lose this week, we do clinch the the AFC South division here. So I think that's something they're trying for as well. All right, let's keep it rolling here. But before we do that, let me tell everyone about our good old friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Pick'em has one of the biggest menus in all sports. You can win up to 1,000x with Underdog streaks. And Underdog is always making it easier with profit boost and gimme picks as well. NFL, college football, college basketball, MMA, NBA, NASCAR, and more. You can now use specials and boosts on all flex entries. So sign up using promo code MACHINE to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Make sure you use that promo code MACHINE. And we're also brought to you by Rebet. Rebet is a new social sports book available in 45 states. There are plenty of betting opportunities that are available on Rebet. Easy to use and great for people in states where traditional sportsbook may be restricted. Download Rebet in the App Store and use the promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit match up to $100. Again, that's Rebet. Make sure you use that promo code SGPN. All right, Sebastian, let's keep it rolling here. We'll get to the next game that we want to discuss here for the NFL Week 15 schedule. Let's go over to the Cincinnati Bengals. They are in Tennessee to take on the Titans. Titans are catching 5 points in this game with a total of 47. What are we looking at for Bengals and Titans?
Yeah, I just want to mention, we all saw Joe Burrow last night kind of get dinged up and put on that knee sleeve there. Looks like it's just some knee soreness. I'm not going to say he's going to be 100%. Everybody's banged up at this point, but it doesn't seem like there's an actual injury. It seems like it's more just being hurt and kind of a sore there. So, excuse me. This is the only reason I wanted to mention this game was just Joe Burrow should be fine. Shouldn't be a huge concern there. That was pretty much it for that one.
Yeah, I do like Tony Pollard this week as far as running back or props, I should say. Cincinnati Bengals rush defense has just been atrocious. I mean, the defense overall has been atrocious. Let's just be honest with ourselves. So I will be looking at Tony.
That's a
Pollard
great
this
week.
week.
I think Pollard, he's been the one bright spot in this team. He's been flying really under the radar. So I think that's great. Rico Dowdle was able to get off second time in 15 years. They've had a 100-yard rusher. That's New York Giants defense bad. So Pollard should have himself a day.
All right, let's keep it rolling here. Let's get over to the Dallas Cowboys. They are in Carolina to take on the Panthers. Panthers laying 2.5 points in this game with a total of 43. I believe this is the first time they've been favored since the 2022 season here, Sebastian. But what are you looking at for Cowboys and Panthers?
Yeah, a bit surprising to see that. But, hey, they've been playing well. We talked about Adam Thielen last week. He came through for us, so that was a nice cash there. I was a little surprised, but then we look at some of Dallas's injuries they suffered, and makes a little bit of sense. Pro Bowl Hall of Famer Zach Martin, the guard there, he's on IR. His season's done. And then one of his backups, Cooper Beebe, suffered a concussion, was ruled out. So we'll see if he's able to go this week. Definitely questionable. And then one of their best players on defense, DeMarvion Overshawn, suffered an ACL, MCL, PCL injury, multi-ligament injury. He's going to be out for 11 to 12 months. I mean, there's a chance if the Cowboys are, again, not a good team, he's going to sit the entire year next year, which, it's a brutal injury for a young guy. But, I think that game last night was absolutely insane. I know I learned a very valuable lesson that under no circumstances, no matter how good of the side looks, the Dallas Cowboys are never the side to put your money on. I think I had to be reminded of the fact in very brutal fashion. But just a reminder there that the Cowboys do suck. And then the Carolina Panthers, another brutal injury for a young player who's really promising. Jonathan Brooks suffered his second ACL tear. He suffered one last November, just got back 3 weeks ago, and then a non-contact injury on his right knee, ACL tear again. I mean, a year and 1 month later, maybe not even that much, he suffered it again. It's just brutal. 10 to 12 months. I mean, we were talking about it on our show on Monday on the DJ Docs there, like, is he going to redshirt this next year? I mean, are they going to view it like that? Unless they make a playoff run, Jonathan Brooks, or DeMarvion Overshawn are not going to be very serviceable until December, January of next year. And I think that's if everything goes well. It's not career, it does not mean his career is over, but it's a tough start, because we've seen it with Deshaun Watson. You don't get better at playing professional football by not playing professional football. It's just one of the biggest indicators we have of guys, not looking the same is extended time off. So it's a very tough injury. You got to feel for the rookie, but hopefully, being young, he can bounce back. The only other injury, cornerback JC Horn, who one of their better corners, although he gets a little handsy, gets a lot of penalties on him. He left the game with a groin injury last week. Those are tough to deal with. Not quite as bad as hamstrings, but similar. He's got a chance to play if it's mild, but it would have an elevated re-injury risk. I would view him as closer to doubtful than questionable. We'll see this week, but it obviously opens up some opportunities for the Cowboys there. So prop wise, I think that Chuba Hubbard is a guy that is obviously, he was the number one back. He's going to continue to be the number one back even more so with Jonathan Brooks being out. And that Cowboys running game, especially out of the backfield, Chase Brown was killing them out of the backfield as someone who was sweating out him on some best balls and fantasies. For him not to go off, the Cowboys defense did me no favors there.
Yeah, last week, against the Eagles, Chuba Hubbard, 26 attempts, 92 yards on the ground, 1 touchdown, did have 4 receptions for 15 targets as well there. So I think this might be a week where I want to either look at his rushing yards to go over, or rushing or receiving to go over. Hasn't really been involved in a lot of the rushing game, the running game, passing game, I should say, for Chuba Hubbard, but that might change this week with what running backs have been able to do through the air against the Dallas Cowboys. All right, we'll keep it rolling here, Sebastian. Let's get over to maybe the matchup of the week. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they are in the city of brotherly love to take on the Eagles. Eagles laying 5 points in this game with a total of 42.5. Could have been a battle of the diva wide receivers in this game, but unfortunately for the Steelers side, they will be without one of their top guys.
Yeah, absolute rat bastards getting away with being so lucky. Oh, man, I was ready to talk so much shit to these Eagles fans. Still hate the Eagles. Still fuck you, Eagles fans. But George Pickens, man, this is all right. I don't know if I'm just like more plugged in or what, but this season, the NFL is on some bullshit with their injury news. I mean, we heard George Pickens, something very minor. He's going to, he's more likely to play than not. We got the Schefter's middle of the night news on Saturday, expected to warm up, but should play. We got Mike Tomlin saying he's optimistic. And then it comes out after the game as a grade 2 hamstring strain. If it's a grade 2 hamstring strain, this guy's got no fucking shot to play that day. I mean, he injured it on Thursday or Friday when they told us. So there's no way he's playing a couple days later. This is a 4 to 6 week injury typically. So, it hasn't been confirmed grade 2, but what they did say is that looking at the MRI, it was more significant than they originally thought, which leads us to believe it is grade 2, which leads us to believe it's closer to 4 weeks than 2 weeks. So not only is he not playing against the Eagles, I don't think he's playing until potentially the last week of the season. Now, we'll see how that progresses, but we're getting a lot of mixed signals here, but I think we can confidently say that do not expect George Pickens to be out there this week. Now, the good news is otherwise the Steelers are pretty healthy. Quarterback Dante Johnson did leave the game with some back spasms. As long as nothing structural is there, backs, low back injuries are tough to deal with. They're kind of touch and go, depending on what happens. If you can tweak something pretty easily, but typically, if it is just the back tightening up on you, most guys are able to play the next week. So something to monitor there. For the Eagles, their secondary has kind of been in and out of the lineup. Reed Blankenship missed last week, although it was a concussion. You would expect him to be back. You did get Darius Slater return, and then CJ GJ, one of the big divas on defense, he was in and out of the lineup. So we'll see what his status is going there. So definitely an interesting matchup. I think the number one guy I'm targeting here, maybe this is a little bit of optimism for me, but Mike Williams. They keep talking about him. He's got a similar build. He's a big body wide receiver. I think that if you can get physical with these Eagles cornerbacks and definitely their safeties, I think there's opportunities there. Obviously, I think George Pickens would have been the go-to guy here. I mean, they got to figure it out without him. I also think the tight ends are an area that they're going to utilize. Pat Freiermuth, you saw him getting in the end zone last week. With him being out, I think Russ is going to have to figure it out. I think if you try to play who's the wide receiver 2 game with Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin, Ben Skoranek, I think you're going to get into a little bit of trouble. You saw Scotty Miller make a nice catch. That's going to be a little bit of Russian roulette there. But I think Mike Williams and Pat Freiermuth is where I'm kind of putting whose baskets I'm putting my eggs in.
Not really a guy that stood out last week as far as a wide receiver group as far as targets wins, because it was pretty much an even distribution. Freiermuth had 3, Scotty Miller had 4, Mike Williams had 4, Jalen Warren had 5, Calvin Austin had 4. Didn't translate to much for him for anything in that, but the offense looked a little bit, stagnant without George Pickens out there. So I think we'll see what the distribution looks like for the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into this week against the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, Sebastian, before we continue the conversation here, let me just remind everybody about mybookie.ag. We're brought to you by mybookie.ag. And believe it or not, mybookie.ag has been around SGPN for years. Check out their new and improved website, great on mobile, plus props for every game and live dealer casino as well. Even new early cash out options are available. Head over to mybookie.ag. Promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus match up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip they'll throw in there for you as well. That's mybookie.ag. Make sure you use that promo code SGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. SGPN's partner Rhythm is the number 1 AI-powered back sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model, copy one of the top-performing models from the leaderboard, or have Rhythm build a model for you. Now you can track props on the Rhythm app. NFL picks, NFL props, college football, college basketball, NBA. Rhythm has it all. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. All right, let's continue the rundown here for the Week 15 games. We'll move it along here to the next game we want to get to. Let's go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are in LA to take on the Chargers. Chargers laying 3 points in this game with a total of 45.5 here. Sebastian, what are we looking for Bucs and Chargers?
Yeah, just really quickly going back to the Eagles-Steelers game, just really quick. I did want to mention, Dallas Goedert likely to be out. I can't remember if he was on IR, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be out for several weeks. They did say multiple weeks. So Grant Calcaterra, the tight ends do give the Pittsburgh Steelers some issues. As my co-host, Derek, big Steelers fan, he always likes to mention that tight ends can go off here. He did have a touchdown last week. So if you are looking for some pro Eagles, I think Calcaterra might be worth a stab there. Should get some nice value there. But going over to this Bucs Chargers game, Bucs defense, my goodness. I have a large play on the Bucs to win the South. And every time I want to believe in them, they just keep getting injured on this defensive side. Already dealing with safety, one starting safety, Jordan Whitehead, on the IR with a pec injury. Now, safety Antoine Winfield Jr. is going to be out multiple weeks with a knee injury. They didn't talk about diagnosis, but he got an MRI, said he's going to be week to week. He's definitely going to be out this week. You do have Bucky Irving, who probably cost a decent amount of people last week by them not being super transparent where he was with his injury. Yeah. I think he took a couple snaps and then immediately was out of the game and didn't do much for the rest of the game. We saw Rashad White, handle that backfield. They have Sean Tucker there. Now, it seems like Bucky Irving's dealing with multiple things between the back and the hip that are pretty minor. So one to monitor. I mean, we'll see how he does. I think you need at least a full practice to be confident in him. If he kind of does the same does not practice type deal, I think you might want to stay away, which is a tough, because he's definitely got a lot of potential. But these back and hips, they can act up a little bit. So you want to be careful there. And then Will Dissly, he left the game after the final play of the first half. Harbaugh doesn't really say shit when it comes to injuries, but him not being able to return the game or even give it a shot is a pretty telling sign. So if you have Will Dissly, start to prepare to pivot. I think the big one is, look, still no J.K. Dobbins, still on the IR, but Ladd McConkey, where are we at, man? Because without him, look, Justin Herbert was able to make it work. Josh Palmer was someone who stepped up, which was pretty nice. Quentin Johnston was someone who was able to get in there, but clearly Ladd McConkey is the guy when he's in there. Yeah. So it's kind of all about where's McConkey at, because if McConkey's able to play, this is a really good matchup against a very beat up and pretty porous Tampa Bay secondary.
All right, let's keep it rolling here. We'll get over to the 4:00 window. We'll go with the New England Patriots. They are in Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Cardinals laying 5.5 points in this game with a total of 45.5 here. What are we looking at for Patriots and Cardinals?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to mention here is offensive lineman guard Cole Strange is activated off the pup from his patellar tendon tear. I don't even know why, at this point, why they really did it, but I guess just to get him some reps ready for next season. He is one of their best, if not their best, offensive linemen, so this will help Drake May. Arizona's defense, although they've been better than expected, their pass rush has not been much of anything this year. Definitely not anything too crazy. So I think this one has a potential to be a sneaky shootout, honestly. I like where Drake May's looking at, and the Cardinals are fighting for their lives. I mean, Kyler Murray, as annoying as this man is to bet on, he's had some weeks. I know he screwed me the past couple weeks against the Seahawks, but I do think that if at least, I may have more confidence in Drake May here, but I think this game could be a sneaky shootout. So you could play some ceilings here, and I know I'll be on Drake May and potentially Kyler coming back as well.
Yeah, Kyler's passing yards has been something that's been very profitable the last 3 weeks. He's had I should say 4 weeks, 259 plus passing yards in 4 straight weeks. Last week, 259, 260, 285, 266 over the last 4 weeks there for Kyler Murray. So could be another week where he does have a big game, at least throwing the football for the Arizona Cardinals. All right, Sebastian, let's keep it rolling here. Next game on the schedule, we'll go to Sunday Night Football. We've got the Green Bay Packers. They are in Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Seahawks are catching 3 points here at home with a total of 46. What are we looking at for Packers Seahawks?
Yeah, a couple things here for the Packers. You got wide receiver Romeo Doubs, who's missed a couple weeks with a concussion now. They still said he was in concussion protocol as of Monday. Obviously, he's got the whole week to kind of get out of that, so we'll see. Now, safety Evan Williams recently picked up a concussion. Now he's in the protocol. And then safety Javon Bullard is week to week with his ankle. So I would say he's the least likely of all of them to play. So some issues in the secondary there for Green Bay. Whereas Seattle, Kenneth Walker, they're going to get an MRI in his calf. They should have got it yesterday. There hasn't been much out about it, but we'll see where he's at. I mean, this is obviously potentially could be something. If it's a grade 2, this is something that could threaten his season as far as the regular season. So we'll see. So definitely more to follow there for him. But obviously Charbonnet, when he was out, I mean, Charbonnet, I think he put up like the most fantasy points as a running back this week. He went off. So he's very capable backup. Now that he does not have quite the matchup that he had last week, that he will this week with Green Bay, a lot more stout against the run than the Arizona Cardinals. But this is an interesting one. I mean, this is a big game for two playoff teams at this point. Yeah. For being honest, I mean, I don't know if I love either of these teams, but they're going to be in the playoffs. So,
all right, let's get to the last game of the Week 15 schedule with injury implications. We'll go to Monday Night Football. We've got the Atlanta Falcons. They are in Vegas to take on the Raiders. Raiders catching 5 points in this game with a total of 44. And if you want a storyline of the week, it's probably going to be in this game here, Sebastian.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting. I mean, look, we talked about our boy Kirko Chains with his revenge game. His pass yards did come through, although he looked like dog shit otherwise, but his pass yards did come through. Injury-wise for the Raiders, Zamir White on the IR. His season's over. It started exactly how it ended with disappointment. Just been disappointing all year, been injured, just kind of been bad. Not the guy we thought he could be. we'll see about Alexander Madison, but Cecile McCormick has taken over the backfield. He's got double-digit carries the past couple weeks there, and he's going up against the Atlanta defense that Aaron Jones went off on. I know Sam Darnold really was able to light them up through the air as well. I mean, he went for 5 touchdowns. So I think, honestly, this could have a little bit more points than we think. Aiden O'Connell was the big one.
Yeah.
We thought he was going to be out for the season. He had an air cast, but now it was just a bone bruise, which kind of makes him look pretty soft to use an air cast for bone bruise. But, that's neither here nor there. Maybe it was the trainers just misdiagnosing, whatever it may be. But, with them playing on Monday night, I mean, he's got a decent shot to be able to play. I know people were talking about Desmond Ridder against his old team.
Yeah.
But I think for our viewing pleasure, hopefully O'Connell's able to go because Desmond Ridder looks really, really bad. And O'Connell, whether it's Brock Bowers or a guy I like is Jacoby Myers. I mean, Jordan Addison had 3 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson had 2 touchdowns. Jacoby Myers has been a solid guy who's had a lot of the target share. Once Devontae Adams has been gone, he's shown that he can be productive. So I think actually, Jacoby Myers might be my favorite play for this game.
36 targets over the last 3 weeks for Jacoby Myers. He's had at least 6 receptions in 3 straight games, 67 yards last week. He had 97 against the Chiefs, 121 against the Denver Broncos. Sebastian, anything else for this Monday Night Football game?
No. I mean, I think if you're just going to play a running back for the Raider side, I think it should be McCormick over anybody else.
All right, that is the last game for the Week 15 schedule. 2 games on Monday Night Football this week, so it should be a fun week of NFL action all throughout the week, and starting on Thursday with a doozy between the Rams and the 49ers. So definitely looking forward to it for this week as far as the games do go. That's pretty much it here. Sebastian, anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
Hey, look, I mean, Week 14 is over, so good luck in fantasy football playoffs, I think more importantly, if you're in the best ball streets, whether it's Underdog or DraftKings, whatever, hopefully you got some bullets at the $1 million or 1.5, wherever you're playing at. So enjoy the sweats because this is what we dreamt about all beginning of the season. So now it's the time. So have some fun sweats this week. We hope that we've been giving you guys some winners. I know we have. Get on them early again. We're going to say it every week because it matters. I mean, these numbers move and they don't move in the direction you want them to move. So if you agree with us on one of these takes, write it down. As soon as your book opens, jump on that number. Other than that, definitely make sure you guys check out the Propcast. I know they do a nice pregame show there. They've got a lot of shows coming out. And definitely check out Munaf because he's just about everywhere that you want to hear him. So,
again, like Sebastian mentioned, we said it all season. Make sure you guys get on those numbers early because it was I think Thanksgiving Day, the Malik Neighbors number moved I want to say 12 or 15 yards. And I think that if I got to it early, you would have
50 someone had opened up. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, it was absolutely wild. So make sure you guys check out Sebastian over at the DGen Docs. They do a great job of breaking down all the injuries in depth, fantasy, player props all throughout the week. So make sure you guys follow him over on Twitter at the DGen Doc, and also check out their YouTube channel as well. Make sure you guys subscribe, most importantly, to the DGen Docs as well over on YouTube. And if you are on Spotify, Apple, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Leave them a rating and review as well. All right, we'll be back next week for the Week 16 matchups in the National Football League. Till then, good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off, and always remember to let it ride.